Welcome, everybody, to the Early Read Tuesday Best Bet show right here on Forward Progress, part of the Hammer Betting Network, presented by our sponsor, FanDuel. I'm your host, G-Stack George. I'm excited to be here. I'm joined this week not with my man, Flup, who said after back-to-back 2-1 weeks and getting himself into a top 10 of a very lucrative Survivor, said, I've done enough work for the week. I'm joined by ClevTA, CleveAnalytics.com, NFL Better. How are you, my friend?
George, what's going on, man? Can't believe we're already in the week 15. It's pretty crazy, but the NFL is I don't know who's good anymore. So it's interesting every week to figure that out.
I'll be honest with you, Cleve. This last week, I was just like on the wrong end of every coin flip, including that Raiders Broncos. And I was just like, oh, can we just get to week 15 here? I was having such a good year, and then last week got smoked. But let's go through the results. I mentioned Flup was 2-1. He wins his triple and double hammer with looks like Minnesota, Washington under. He took Green Bay. He gets that home, loses his under. I lose my triple hammer, my single hammer, win my double hammer, bringing my record up to 22-16-1. Working on the ROI as a show, hoping that we turn it around. You and I, Cleve, we're going to have a big week. I can feel it. And listen, this show doesn't happen without your comments and your plays as well. Connor's in there. I know XS will show up, Chosen. Please drop your plays in the chat. I always want to know what you guys are on and your commentary. Cleve, I felt like I was doing double duty today. I'm trying to prep for the show, and I can't keep my eyes off like the Phillip Rivers discourse. I know I could sense from our group chat you are also a Phillip Rivers stan. Like that was like, what a great out of nowhere news story yesterday, right?
I mean, I've never, there's no quarterback and team with the Chargers that I had more fun and despair betting on than Rivers and Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. I mean, I don't know how many times I took that because every game was just a one possession game, no matter what. Yeah. And it's just like, but they're just so fun to bet, and he's such a fun player to back that I'm happy he's potentially back in our lives. It's one of the most incredible stories of in the NFL that I can remember. A guy 44 years old who's been out of the league this long that all of a sudden is just popped into a playoff chase. It's pretty incredible.
Cleve, literally the two most shocking quarterback news of all time is like Andrew Luck retiring in the heart of his prime when he's a top 5 quarterback, and Rivers off the couch 5 years later. I mean, I guess the Brady thing was kind of there too, but like the Colts have a flair for the drama. We'll get to that game. We'll talk about it. I don't know how we're going to break down that game because I'm finding it difficult to price all that. But let's start off with the Thursday nighter. Right now, Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is 4.5 flat. Total is 44.5, also 110 flat. Cleve, let's start with you because you have a play in this game.
Yeah, so I am going with the Falcons as my double hammer, plus 4.5, minus 110 at FanDuel. I know there were 5.5 yesterday, but not a huge difference between the two. I think that I can't get anywhere near this number. I know that Drake London probably won't play. He didn't practice at all last week, and looks kind of day to day. I doubt he plays. You never know. That would be a bonus. But even without him, I still can't get near this number. I just think that if you look at the Bucks, they've got injuries of their own. I mean, Hassan Reddick missed the last, left the last game. Tyke Smith in the secondary. Who knows if Tristan Wirfs is going to play? I mean, it was kind of that oblique injury. I think he was limited on Friday. That was the best he did. So on a short week, who knows if he plays? I mean, I know there's talk about Mike Evans, but that's probably, even if he does play, a pitch count. But this Bucks team is not good. I think they're just still being priced on reputation. When you look at things like net success rate, for example, on the entire season, this isn't like something that's recent. They're bottom 10 in the NFL. I mean, the Falcons have a better net success rate than the Bucks. They lived off early in the year on, Baker Mayfield making these, explosive plays and just winning at the last second. But they're not a team that you want to back to win by margin. And the Falcons are the opposite. Like they're kind of a bad luck story. they play tight in many instances and then lose late. Last week was a little different story with the Seahawks. They're actually up 6-3 before half. They allow a field goal to tie it up at halftime, and then kickoff return for a touchdown right after half. There was a Bijan Robinson fumble as they were going in, inside the 15. So just a bunch of bad luck things, and they're not the type of team now that can really come back against a good defense like Seattle. Just not as worried about that here with this Bucs defense that continually gives up big plays. If you recall last year, Kirk Cousins, for as poorly as he played, his 2 best games all year were against this Bucs defense. Like he is good against Todd Bowles in this blitz, and I think that the Falcons are good enough here to cover this number. I just think it's anything over 3 I'm okay with. So we'll stick with the Falcons and hope that familiarity helps Kirk Cousins, and it's a coin flip game at the end.
It was a coin flip game the first time they played, and frankly, I thought Atlanta was on the wrong side of the coin flip. You mentioned it. I said last week that I think Tampa Bay's perception offensively is off. Said not that anyone thinks they're good anymore, but people still think they're average, and like they've been a lot worse than that. Cleve, they're 28th in success rate on a play-by-play basis. They're not a good offense. Defensively,
I was going to say since week 7. I mean, since week 7, if you want to do first half, the second half of the season, Baker is since week 7, second half of the year is 35th out of 70. 35th out of 37 QBs in EPA, 33rd in success rate. Like it's bad.
100%. Also, I think Atlanta's run defense with Divine Diablo is much better. It's still not good, but like you're talking about like bottom 3 run defense that they were for a while, and they're back to like 24th. The key for me is how bad Baker's been against the blitz. Atlanta is the second highest blitz rate. Outside of Brian Flores, who's insane with the blitz, Atlanta likes to send it. Baker against the blitz this year, 53% completion percentage, 5.5 yards per attempt, minus 0.1 EPA per play, 36% success rate. All those metrics are worse than when he's not being blitzed. He hasn't played well against the blitz. I was almost there with you. FanDuel does have the best price in market at 4.5 when everyone else is painted 4. Ultimately, this one just missed my cutting board, but I directionally agree with you. I kind of want to see some, because you mentioned the Hassan Reddick, even their linebacker, Servosea Dennis didn't practice. So there's a lot of balloons up in the air, and I kind of want to wait for a little bit more clarity. That being said, yep.
Oh, sorry. It's good. Jalen Walker he left the last game. It does sound like he's going to play. At least that's what Raheem Morris indicated. So that was a big one for me. He's been really good this year, him and Pierce. So as long as I have him back in the lineup, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, if you're going to be watching that game, you're probably going to make a touchdown bet or two. FanDuel is making week 14. Are we in week 15? Even bigger. We're in week 15. I can't believe it. We got a month left. You get a chance to win a share of $2 million in bonus bets this Thursday night. That's right, $2 million. You either get the first touchdown score or the last touchdown score in the Atlanta Falcons versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Use your profit boost, and if the player you pick scores either first or last, you'll earn a share of $2 million, $1 million for each touchdown. It's just one more reason to bet on the NFL with FanDuel. So whether you got a feeling about the opening drive or you're banking on a clutch finish, now's the time to get in the game. Visit FanDuel.com/forwardprogress to download the app today and get started. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 19 and physically located in Ontario. 18 and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Opt-in, must apply profit boost token on select market. Prize pool to be split equally among all eligible participants who made the correct first or last touchdown pick. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 21 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY New York. Call Connects Ontario at 1-866-531-2600 or visit connectsontario.ca. And listen, if you're on Twitter and you're following Cleve, Cleve likes to give a couple of long shots. The longer shot you take, the less people you're splitting the $1 million with. So it might be worth trying to snipe someone who's a little bit under the radar. That being said, Cleve, this feels like a week of uncertainty, and this is one of those games. New York Jets at Jacksonville. Right now, Jacksonville's favored 12.5 at FanDuel flat. Total is 41.5, shaded 112 to the under. Cleve, I don't know who's playing quarterback. Tyrod Taylor leaves the game. Justin Fields doesn't play. Is it inactive last week? Oh, I don't know how to price a quarterback situation that I truly don't know who's going to start. That being said, how are you looking at this game? Cleve? Well, I'll tell you how I'm shooting. For myself, I think the Jags defense has been getting better. 6th in defensive EPA per play, 10th in defensive success rate, top 5 run defense. Not sure how the Jets move the ball, even with Breece Hall, especially if there is no passing threat. As far as like the Jags offensively, I think Jacoby Myers has been a really, really good addition to their offense. And frankly, Brian Thomas Jr. finally looked like he had some speed and burst again last week. I know when you're recovering from an ankle, it takes a few weeks. The Jets are also quite thin in the secondary. Jarvis Brownlee was on IR last week. Their Azaria Thomas didn't play. Tony Adams didn't play. It for me, there's a lot of lack of information. I'm curious in the chat if you guys like a play. Cleve, I'll bring you back in here. I'm finding it difficult to price a game with I don't know who's going to be the quarterback for the Jets. Not that any of the 3 options matter, but I think the range of outcomes between Taylor, Justin Fields, and Brady Cook is there's quite a wide gap here, right? Oh, Cleve, I think you're muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I run my season-long numbers. I make this game 10.
Yeah.
So, and that's assuming obviously Tyrod or Fields, not a huge difference, although I like Tyrod more. If Fields plays and this number is near this 11-12 range, I can see myself jumping on the Jets. Otherwise, if it's what a Brady Cook, I have no interest in this because he's an unknown and he looked pretty poor last week. So I could see if Tyrod, the problem with backing the Jets, if you like Tyrod, if he does start, is it's a groin issue. You can re-injure that at any moment. So, it's a big risk there. But the Jags teams play well. They're still feasting off these turnovers. And obviously I got the good luck with the injury to Daniel Jones early last week. But, I think for them to be laying double digits is a lot, unless it's Cook here.
Yeah, I've kind of faded them the last 2 weeks with the Titans and the Colts, and they keep starting drives at like the opponent's 20 because of turnovers. I'm just like, life's a lot more difficult when you're handing the team a red zone trip to start the game. Not too much on the game. We'll keep it moving. Arizona, Houston. I feel like the theme of this week, Cleve, is uncertainty. I don't know who's going to play for Arizona. Marvin Harrison. Apparently now Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be out. We still don't know about Walter Nolan, their safety, Rabbit, Taylor Demerson, Max Melton. Okay. Let's start with the game. I know they're banged up, but we need to start having a conversation about the Cardinals defense. They're now 25th in defensive EPA per play, 31st in defensive success rate. Clearly they're injured, but they're not good right now. And I think Stroud's like not a world beater, but I'm very concerned that how Arizona puts together enough stops. The other side of the ball, Arizona's O-line is in real trouble. Jonah Williams and Will Hernandez, not that they were great, but they've lost the right side of their line to the IR. Paris Johnson out. We don't know what Evan Brown's personal issue is and if he's going to play. And we still truly no word of if Marvin Harrison comes back. I'm tempted to take Houston, but I don't love the idea of laying margin with an average offense at best, and especially like Brissett, who's capable of chucking for the back door. What are your thoughts on this game, Cleve?
Yeah, it's funny. I look at their schedule. Arizona, between the injuries and the schedule, it's just been bad luck after bad luck. I mean, you face the Rams, you had Tampa the week before, then Jacksonville, San Francisco, Seattle, Dallas, Green Bay, a healthy Colts team. You have the reprieve with Tennessee, and then you played Seattle, San Francisco. It's just murderer's row. And so they catch no breaks. And obviously they're playing a hot Texans team now. Again, I can never lay this number with Houston. They're just not built that way.
Yeah.
They're just not built in a way that just you're going to want to win by a significant margin. It's not like Arizona. Yeah, last week against the Rams, they're just completely overmatched defensively against that offense. And, we know the Rams can really, once they get things rolling, they could just make anybody look bad. But otherwise, like, they're competitive in pretty much all these games. So they're not a team I want to be fading at this number without an elite offense, like the Rams. So I would never take Houston here personally, but without both your tackles and obviously not knowing about Marvin Harrison, that's not what you want to do going into a game against the Texans. If you told me Harrison's going to play, I'd feel a little bit better about backing Arizona, but it's like a war of attrition at this point with Arizona. So, like, to me, it's Arizona or pass, but it's just hard for me to get here right now. Just the way the Texans defense is just shutting everybody down to be interested in the Cardinals here.
And all their injuries have come in clusters this year. First, it was the secondary stuff they were dealing with, and then they lose Mac Wilson, their linebacker, and now it's like no one on the O-line can stay healthy. All the running backs, it's just too much. We'll leave it there. I don't have a bet in the game right now. This is a banger. Finally, Buffalo -1.5 versus New England -105. If you like Buffalo, total is 49.5 flat. Cleve, I want to lead off with you because you got a play in this game.
Yeah, so I've got, what is my triple hammer is on this over 49.5 -110. To me, this is, if you go, once I started really evaluating the Patriots schedule, and I know that, everybody knows the schedule they faced has been, pretty easy, but like, look at the quarterbacks that they faced. It's actually incredible. So obviously you had that first matchup a couple months ago against Josh Allen and the Bills. He's the only top 12 EPA quarterback that they faced all year. I mean, listen to these names: Geno Smith, Tua, Aaron Rodgers, Bryce Young, Dylan Gabriel, Spencer Rattler, Cam Ward, Michael Penix, Baker in the middle of his slump here, Justin Fields, Joe Flacco, and Jackson Dart. Like, you're talking about 3 or 4 rookies, and then a bunch of guys that have really struggled this year. So I don't take much of their defensive numbers too seriously. And in fact, like, I know they're top 10 when you look at things like EPA, just from a raw basis, especially versus dropbacks. Once you adjust for opposing schedules, like, I have them much closer to 16th to 17th in the NFL. So I think that their defensive prowess is a little bit overstated here. Obviously, getting Josh Allen a second time, in that first matchup, it was a 23-20 game. The total, I think, was right on where from a pregame expectancy, it was right on this number. So it hasn't really moved in the second matchup, but in that game, Josh Allen had a 56% success rate. It was his 4th highest output of the entire season. So he moved the ball. The problem is they just had they committed 11 penalties and had 3 turnovers. There was only 6 punts in the entire game combined, by the way. There's a bunch of field goals. There's 3 field goals inside the 15 when you look at both teams. I actually didn't remember this, but Mike Vrabel kicked a field goal at the 1-yard line, which is pretty incredible. So, both teams, were fine on offense, 5.3 yards per play, 5.7 yards per play. So I think when you look at kind of the underlying numbers, it should have been much more closer to a 50-point total than the 43 that they scored. And like I said, I think just New England is just feasted off of all these, young and bad quarterbacks. You finally get, one of the elite guys in Josh Allen. So I do think that there's a little bit of just a kind of undervalue in the market from that perspective. And on the other side of the ball, you look at Drake May, we know that, he can push the ball down the field. This Buffalo defense, 24th in explosive pass rate allowed, and we saw last week Joe Burrow in the snow, was moving it up and down the field on him. I think, Drake May will be fine in that regard. There's a lot of defensive injuries for Buffalo just all year. Obviously, they don't have Ed Oliver anymore. Joey Bosa was 3x DNP last week, so he's probably not going to play again. Who knows? He's always tough with those
They won't risk it. Joey Bosa is a playoff. Like, they're like, if he's got anything knickknack, he is not playing. They do not want him getting hurt before.
So there's a lack of pass rush there. The middle of the field's open against this defense. They can't stop the run, and so I just think this number should be much closer to 51. So a little bit of value here. I just think when you got 2 teams fighting for playoff supremacy, number 1 seed, the division, all that, I think they're going to kind of all, they're going to bring out their good plays, if you will. Josh Allen's going to run. I know that there was talk. I think it was, I think Robin and Clive may have mentioned the kind of not the conspiracy, but the Zapruder film, with Josh Allen's potentially coming up limping after that last play in the game on Sunday. I don't know. I watched it. I watched the replay of him in the locker room. I don't know. It just looked like any kind of post game soreness. I don't think it's really a big deal. So we'll see. I mean, like if he doesn't practice tomorrow for whatever reason or is limited, then this number is not going to look good. But I think he's fine. At the end of the day, he's a tough guy. Weather looks fine. It's going to be a little chilly, but it's not like crazy cold, and there's no wind expected or snow that I saw. So I'm okay from a weather perspective. So I just think there's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Yeah, Cleve. Usually we hear about tests on a Monday or now Tuesday. We haven't heard anything on Josh Allen's ankle, so it leads me to believe he's going to be okay. You talked about how the Pats kind of are like, they're it's misleading how their defense is played. I remember Joe Flacco without Jamar Chase was moving the ball quite easily on them, and I just keep thinking, oh, Josh's going to do that too. And then like we like to think of like New England as this very good run defense. Since like Milton Williams went on the IR and Kiris Tonga, their nose tackle, has also missed the last couple of weeks, they're like now 19th in defensive rush success rate. You can even run on them. I don't know. I don't think there's anything quite great that they do defensively. I kind of lean directionally with you. I kind of want to see what happens with Spencer Brown. I think he will play, and I think Jared Wilson has a shot with their last game having been 10 days in between. Listen, before we continue, that was Cleve's Triple Hammer. Please like and subscribe. Do us a favor. Smash the like button. Helps us out in the algorithm. As always, drop your comments in the chat. Vicara likes the Pats money line plus 104. I haven't decided on a side yet in that game. This is quite the game, Cleve. It feels like this is such a high level. The Chiefs could be mathematically eliminated with a month left to go in football, which feels so improbable, especially when you look at their like underlying numbers, Cleve, that they're like 1-5 in one score games. They're 6-7 with like a plus 63 point differential, but Chargers at Kansas City 4.5 point favorites, minus 112 at FanDuel. Total is 42.5, shaded 120 to the under. Cleve, I'm curious your thoughts here, because I have a lot of thoughts about the state of both O-lines. The Chiefs, obviously, they lose Wanya Morris now for the year. They've lost Josh Simmons. He's on the IR. Jawan Taylor and Trey Smith, triple DNPs last week. Trey Smith hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. They play a really good Chargers defense, but they don't generate a great pass rush. And I thought they didn't get enough pressure on Hurts despite Lane Johnson missing. On the other side of the ball, the Chargers O-line was so bad on Monday, yesterday. Gave up 7 sacks, like 3/4 of the dropbacks. Herbert was pressured. Mekhi Becton, who they gave a boatload of money to, had a 0.3 pass block grade on PFF. Like, I think Spags is going to go full send here. I like my numbers say I'm supposed to like the Chargers here. But I want some clarity on the Chiefs O-line and Trent McDuffie, right? McDuffie looks like he hyperextended his knee. If I find out that they're not playing and I can still get a number of 4.5, I might be interested. I just worry about if the Chargers don't get pass rush going on Mahomes, he's not going to make the Philadelphia Jalen Hurts like 4 or 5 pick game. And I think he might actually move the ball well, despite how good the Chargers defense has been. I'm curious your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, I just can't price out Kansas City very well. I know like I just, everything in my being said I should have taken Houston on Sunday. And I just, for whatever reason, like, I think it's just my priors. I think I have a mental block fading Kansas City in these like short spread games when there's so much on the lines, because I'm just so used to having Andy Reid and Mahomes really pull out the best stuff and kind of, like overperform market expectations, that it's just hard for me to go against that. So I always have this block. And then look, they're taking money. If you like the Chargers, just wait. Every single week at game day, the Chiefs are getting bet heavy, and they're closing at these outrageous numbers. I mean, I don't even remember. What did Houston end up closing? Was it 5.5 when it
got to 5.5, and then it was there was 4.5s and 5s in markets at close, which it's crazy. I gave away Houston plus 3.5 minus 118. I got all this bad CLV, but I'm like, it's still I don't know how I get above a field goal here. I don't know where this steam and this appetite for KC is right now.
Yeah, and we saw it a couple weeks ago with the Colts game too, and they got, I mean, they didn't cover that game. They got lucky. They got the win, but we saw like a couple hours before kick all that money. I mean, it was like an hour before kick, all that money came in. I think it closed like 4.5. So, you know, I would suspect if you loved Kansas City those last couple of games, you're going to love them again this week. So maybe if you're interested in the Chargers, it might be worth waiting here. I will say it does almost a 70% pressure rate on Herbert last night. It's just pretty incredible. And so you get Spags, and he's going to really attack Herbert, I think. And it's going to be, look, he's got that wrist injury, and maybe this is, you know, kind of overthinking it, but, you know, it's one thing to play in a dome, you know, when it's all protected, but when it's, what is it going to be, 20 degrees, it's going to be freezing. Like, that's going to make it, you know, much more difficult to grip and really, you know, feel the ball. So, you know, that's just a potential negative on that front. So to me, this is, you know, I just feel like I always, my numbers keep leaning under to these Kansas City Chiefs games. And you know, they're playing that way, especially at Arrowhead. You know, you see a lot of unders. The Chiefs just play really slow and methodical for whatever reason at home. And their defense obviously steps up. And, you know, we see these lower scoring type games at Arrowhead for whatever reason. So, like, to me, like, maybe if you wait and want to take the Chargers, that's fine. But like, the under would be the only look here for me. Not good enough for me to pull the trigger because, you know, it's all factored in here. But that's the one thing that I would look at is the total.
Well, Chris Jones was on one. Like, he destroyed Ed Ingram all game. And I'm just thinking, Mekhi Becton is going to get freaking killed in this spot. You've at least, like, you're like not betting against KC. Connor every week seems to love betting on KC. This week he's a little hesitant. We'll move on to the other part of the Monday night game. Las Vegas is at Philadelphia. Philadelphia right now 11.5 minus 105 at FanDuel. Totals 38.5 flat. Cleve, let's start with you because I hate watching both these teams, let alone discussing both these teams.
Yeah, so I was on the first half. I didn't get the horrible beat with that Denver Raiders game. I was actually on the first half under only because I was trying to avoid all that bullshit at the end of it, because I feel like these Raiders games, they're either getting blown out or something, and you get these kind of end of game kind of bullshit drives from the Raiders. That's the only time they move the ball. So I thought, you know, early on, maybe Sean Payton and Bo Nix will get, you know, they're coming off of that overtime game on the road against Washington. Maybe, you know, they'll start off slow. And then I just figured that the Denver defense would be able to stymie the Raiders. And it was heading that way. I had 20.5 and it was 7-7. And then, you know, of course, Mims returns a kick for a touchdown. And that I lost it by a half. I mean, they did nothing outside of that. So that was disappointing. So I didn't get burned at the end, but I was thinking to myself, like, I don't know what was worse, that first half or the end of game was worse, but just I'm kind of glad if I was going to lose, it was going to be the first half. But so to me, I'm always kind of leaning towards an under in a Raiders game. I think the Eagles defense played pretty well last night, or played really well last night. Obviously got a ton of pressure. Yeah. I actually think if I was looking at a side, so I'm assuming this number is just is a Geno Smith line, right? Because I actually think if for whatever reason, if we saw Pickett get announced, and I don't know if it would move at this point the way Geno's playing, but if it got to 13 or something, I would at least consider, you know, Pickett and the Raiders, because I do think he offers more mobility. I thought he threw the ball pretty well in that game on Sunday. I know it was, you know, kind of mop up duty, but I thought he looked pretty decent. So. Yeah, and he knows the Eagles well. Obviously played there last year. So to me, again, I would never in a million years lay this with this Eagles team at this point. They just can't get margin. And so they're being priced like the old Eagles. They're not being priced like a team that is almost like just a league average team at this point, the way they've been playing. So to me, it's Raiders or nothing. And if I get a little bit higher, you know, a little bit of an inflated number, if Kenny Pickett is in there, then I'll be interested in the Raiders.
Yeah, Cleve, I actually, you know, I like Kenny Pickett. Not that I think he's great, but I think he's interesting. When Indy's quarterback situation, when Daniel Jones went down, my first thought was, I wish Pickett was on Indy. I wouldn't mind seeing Pickett run this offense. I think the Raiders offense is awful. I think it's the worst offense in football. I truly do. 31st in EPA per play, 30th in offensive success rate. I mean, maybe Tennessee's worse, maybe Cleveland, but there's aspects of Cleveland's offense that I like against an Eagles defense that I think is very, very good. The reason I faded the Raiders is not that I love the Broncos. I just really have a hate on for the Raiders right now. That being said, I think Lane Johnson is close. He tweeted like the eyeball emoji, "I'm ready to go," almost. And I'm hearing reports that he's going to return to practice at some way in some limited fashion. I think that's important because Max Crosby could wreak havoc. But I have no opinions on this game. I will never, I would never lay this kind of price with the Eagles. And
yeah, sorry, one follow-up. I forgot to mention in terms of like for an under and for a Raiders look. So the Raiders play the most zone in the NFL, almost like 85% of snaps, which is pretty crazy. And we saw, the Chargers last night were a pretty heavy zone defense. Jalen Hurts has one of the widest splits facing man versus zone in the last couple of years, including this year. We saw how bad he was last night, the 4 interceptions.
He's awful.
So,
he's awful.
Yeah, he was awful. He has no ability to beat zone. And AJ Brown destroys man, and he doesn't get that. So that's one kind of another positive if you're looking at the under or the Raiders is just from a stylistic matchup from a coverage standpoint. That could be something that might be a struggle for the Eagles.
I could even be interested in an Eagles team total under, given how big of a favorite they are. That might be an angle. Well, listen, if you are watching right now and have liked the stream and you are subscribed, great job. You are our number one type of fans. But listen, if you aren't subscribed, we are so close right now to 10,000 subscribers. If you're listening right now and aren't subscribed, please do so. But I would like to ask a favor. If you have a friend who bets and you talk football with him in any capacity and he hasn't found out who we are, please share the Forward Progress YouTube channel with them. Ask them, implore them to subscribe. We'd love to get to 10,000 by the end of 2025. We are so close. We'd love to hit that milestone. Oh, Cleve, I have bet against Cincinnati 3 straight weeks with 3 hammers. I've lost 2 of those games by half a point. I'm a little sour about everything Cincinnati. Baltimore is a 2.5 point favorite in Cincinnati right now. Total's 51.5 flat. We got news that Trey Hendrickson is done for the year. The only other injury really we're watching is T. Higgins, who was very clearly concussed in the last game, but apparently all the spotters missed the guy shaking his head in pain every time he caught the ball. And then that's a very frustrating thing because as a Dolphins fan, we got like lambasted for our handling of Tua's concussion, even though we always handled it the right way. Now I'm off my soapbox. Cleve, what are your thoughts about Baltimore at Cincinnati? Because I'm finding it very difficult to get a read on who Baltimore is. And frankly, I don't know why I keep getting burned by Cincinnati.
So I'm the opposite of you. I keep backing the Ravens and just waiting for them to break out, and it's just not happening. And I was on them last week against the Steelers, and they're just not the same. There's not the same team. It's not just Lamar. It's just that whole offense. They just don't create explosives down the field. They make these dumb mistakes, whether it be likely fumbling into the end zone or just not hanging out of the ball or penalties. It's just clunky right now. And I feel like they're being priced like the old Baltimore, not to that degree, but like that they're going to break out one of these days. And so kind of betting on that instead of betting on their true numbers. Like if you just ran what their season long numbers are with Lamar, they're not even close to this level. Like they would never be laying points to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. But that's just kind of how they're being priced. But I also don't want to fade that because I know at any point they can they can be the old Ravens, and eventually you feel like that that kind of their priors are going to hit. So this is a nothing game for me. Especially with if T. Higgins was playing, if I knew for sure he would play, I don't think you can play. It sounds like he might be out for the year with a second concussion. And so it's a little bit of a different Bengals team, but I would lean Bengals if anything, but I just don't love fading Baltimore with the potential of finally figuring things out. So this is just a stay away from me. And I think the total's probably a tad high based on the way the Ravens are playing. I think defensively they're okay. It's just offensively, they're just not explosive enough. So, in the 50s, I would think maybe the under here, if anything, but nothing official for me.
Yeah. Luke Burrow asks if I can stop losing betting against the Bengals, maybe take the Bengals this time. Here's the problem I'm having. The week against New England where they cover by a half. They have 2 straight drives in the red zone, New England, and they come away with 3 points. And I'm talking about they took 5 of 9 snaps from the 1 yard line, and the Bengals held them to 3 points. So from an early premise, it's okay, that I believe that is very, very lucky, not a great metric on how good they are. The other aspect is against the Bills, Burrow goes 10 for 12 on third down. I'm sorry. There's no fucking planet where that happens regularly. I feel like they've been getting lucky the last 3 weeks, but I don't have enough conviction. And frankly, the Ravens are not my horse. I'm hoping Bengals win outright so I can fade them again next week with a different fighter. I don't want to do it with the Ravens. The thing that worries me, Clive, on third down is Baltimore is they're the 3rd worst team in pressure rate. I don't know if you can't get pressure on Burrow. He's so good that he will find the open man and he waits for guys to get uncovered. Just sour. I'm just sour about losing 3 weeks of hammers. I feel I look like the guy who's just hates on the Bengals. And I was arguing with Mike Durso the entire game about who's getting lucky. And he's pointing out Burrow's 2 picks in a row. And I'm yeah, the Bills also fumbled on the 1 yard line. So the stuff balances out. Ty Johnson blew a tire when he was wide open, he was running open for the touchdown, nobody around him. And then they have to settle for a field goal. So I'm the luck kind of balanced out. And then since he covered by half a point again. Let's move on. Washington Giants. I almost took this game, and I'll tell you which direction I'm leaning right now. Giants 2.5 minus 108. Totals 46.5, shade of 120 to the over. Cleve, I can't get to this number regardless of who's playing QB for the Commanders. This is still an offense that's 14th in offensive EPA per play, 9th in success rate, going against a Giants defense that's 30th in defensive EPA per play. They're still the worst run defense. On the other side of the ball, I said it about a month and a half ago. I think the Commanders' defense might be one of the worst in football, but we're not perceiving it just like that yet. I think they are the worst defense right now. There's no defense playing worse. They're 31st in defensive EPA per play. They've been the worst defense for about 6 weeks now. I kind of like the over in this game, and I know FanDuel is offering 46.5 minus 120. There's 47s and 47.5s in market. This ultimately just missed my board, just because I don't know if this price is factoring in Jaden Daniels with a chance to play. And maybe there might be a chance to buy back. I bet this earlier at reduced juice, but I was leaning over. Curious, Cleve, which way you're leaning here?
Yeah, I can see that look. I just honestly, what I want is I want Jaden Daniels to be announced out. I want Mariota in, and I want a 3. I don't know if I'll get the 3, but I'm hoping that to some degree this number is pricing in some remote chance that that Jaden Daniels plays. I'm trying to. I can't get my finger on exactly what this number is pricing. I would be okay, honestly, taking Mariota at 2.5, but I don't want to pull the trigger early if I don't have to. So I'll just wait. But that's my goal. If I can get a 3 with Mariota, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think he's run this offense actually better than Jaden Daniels this year. Obviously, that's not saying that he's a better quarterback or anything like that, but just right now, he's running that offense well. He's pushing the ball down the field. That's something that Daniels is not doing. And look, you still got Debo. You still have Terry McLaurin that back. It's you got perfectly fine weapons on offense. And so I have no problems that they can move the ball against this Giants defense. And, the Commanders defense stinks, there's no doubt. But as Jackson Dart and these, receivers really the team to take advantage, I'm not sure about that. So, I think to me, I'm just waiting on the Daniels injury news and just trying to pounce on if there's an overreaction in the market negatively. So that's kind of my perspective on this.
Yeah, I don't think a 3 is going to show. I would love one. I'd click it.
So do you think this is 100% pricing in Mariota?
Yes. I think it's like
really
not 100%. I think it's like close to 9. I think it's close to 90% that it's going to be that it's pricing in Mariota.
I mean, the comments from Dan Quinn is that he could have gone back in if it was a important game. Like, is that just pure lip service, or is that your read?
I don't know. Like,
that's what I'm having a hard time pricing this.
Here's where I think the discussion happens. At some point, ownership has to come down and say, "Listen, Dan, this season's lost, and we're not going to fucking risk our franchise QB in a meaningless season. Now there's nothing left to play for. Not that they're tanking, but I don't like they fucked up with Doris Armstrong. They played him like with no practice because he was Gates' old team and wanted to prove a point, and he got lost for the season. I don't know that they can do that. Like, I don't think that I think there's some larger discussions being had. If this was a playoff game, I think Daniels 100% plays. I don't know that. I think they might just be cautious just for the sake of caution here.
Well, I'll just say this. So, like, let's say you're right. Let's say it is Mariota and it stays here at 2.5. I'm fine teasing up Washington and, maybe also teasing up Cincinnati if we want to go that route. But I'll be okay taking Mariota too, straight up. Like, I
don't even think it stays here, if I'm being honest. Like, are we saying that this Giants iteration is more is better perceived in market than Minnesota's last week? I don't know. The Giants haven't looked good in a while. It's like,
that was Washington with Daniels. It's a different price. It's not apples to apples,
Yeah, but wasn't it -2 when we thought it was Mariota still?
Yeah, but did we think it was Mariota?
Oh, yeah.
I think that was pricing a lot more that Daniels was going to play.
Yeah, you're right. It might have been a 3 Minnesota.
But it's like I said, you guys might be right. And like I said, it's either a teaser or I may just take Mariota in Washington anyway at 2.5. But you might as well hold out and see. I've been surprised before of overreaction to an injury. So
I'm never afraid of like losing a 2.5 and like having a 1 when the 3 is just infinitely more valuable. All right. Let's move on to Cleveland and Chicago. Right now, 7.5 Chicago, -112 at FanDuel. Totals 39.5, shaded 115 to the over. Cleve, we'll get you on the board here because you got another hammer play here.
Yeah, so I've got my single hammer on the Browns here at 7.5. I think -108 is the last time I saw. I just think this number is egregiously high. To expect this Bears team, who's, by the way, they've impressed me the last couple of weeks in tough situations at Philly and at Green Bay. Really competitive. Obviously, they beat Philly, and then we're really competitive with Green Bay. They're just not a team that you want to win by significant margin, this is what they're asking of. It's only 2 or 3 games all year that they won by more than 7. This is not that type of team, and they're a heavy run team now, which has been great, but that's going to obviously shorten the game and lower expectations from a margin perspective. And they're facing one of the best run defenses in the NFL in the Browns. So I just think from a pure numbers perspective, I can't get anywhere near that. And then you just look at the matchup. And by the way, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Mason Rudolph and the Steelers without Alex Highsmith went into Chicago and were 2.5-point dogs. Is that team 5, 6, 7 points better than this Browns iteration on a neutral? I think that's there's too wide of a gap there. We're just using kind of apples to apples comparisons. Yeah. But to me, the Browns, Shedeur Sanders showed me something last week. I'm a big skeptic of his, and I think every week he's looked better. Again, that doesn't mean he's a franchise quarterback. Doesn't mean he's even a top 20 quarterback or 25 quarterback. But I don't think he's nearly as a disaster as I thought he could be coming in. He's proved every time. And look, his success rate on a down-to-down basis is not going to be great, but he does push the ball down the field way more than we ever saw with Dylan Gabriel, and he'll hit a couple big plays, and he's very accurate. If he gets a clean pocket, which you're not going to get a great pass rush with this Bears team, he will put it on these receivers and fan in at tight end. So I do think they can hit enough big plays. This Bears defense is not very good. I mean, they're 30th in the NFL from an EPA perspective when you exclude turnovers. Now, that is the one area that I'm nervous about is guys like Kevin Byard and The secondary that has turned the opponents over a lot, could confuse Sanders, and he could have a couple of big turnovers to kind of screw this cover. So that is one thing that I'm nervous about. But generally, I think the Browns have done a good job kind of managing him. He's, throwing swing passes, quick one read passes, running the ball with Judkins. And then when it's like, you got to make a play, then they kind of let him loose. If they can just run the ball on a bottom 5 to 8 run defense here with the Bears, I think they should be okay, and they'll be able to put them in some good spots. So yeah, it's not great to have Shedeur Sanders on the road in a kind of a cold environment against a Dennis Allen defense. But, I think there's plenty of holes, especially with the fact that Kyler Gordon, their best run stopping second player in the secondary, was a late scratch before the game on Sunday. Who knows if he'll be able to play in this one. They're already missing Tyreek Stevenson. Jalen Johnson came back at cornerback, and he hasn't looked great, and he's on a snap count. So there are plenty of issues on this defense. The Browns won't have Ethan Pochik at center, but that's not a huge drop off. He hasn't been great. And again, the middle of the Bears pass rush isn't anything to write home about. They might get Jack Conklin back from a 2-game absence with a concussion, so that will help. I just think that this is way too many points. And one thing I always look at in a Browns game, their special teams is worse in the NFL by a margin. One of the worst we've seen in a while. But the Bears are just 21st when you look at DVOA from a special team standpoint. They're not necessarily going to take advantage that some other teams have. So it's not as big of an edge as you might see in some other games. So to me, this is just a number too big in a game that I think should be lower scoring, 2 run heavy offenses at this point. So give me the 7.5.
Yeah, it's interesting, Cleve, how much Shedeur has relied on yards after the catch. Big Ross says how many screens or slants to the round.
He's created that, to be fair. I mean, outside of the screen with Judkins, that pass to Judy was on the money, and he created that yak. So to be fair.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I said once that I saw something in Cam Ward, and that's become the Hammer's new, that's our new becking call, seeing something in bad quarterbacks. I will say the one thing I'm curious, I think this is the best litmus test game for Caleb, even more so than last week, because the Browns are second in defensive rush EPA per play. And I wonder if the Bears run game's not going great, and Cleveland's also 4th best in pressure rate. I wonder what Caleb's counter punch is. And I think if ever we're going to see how much ugly is still left in his game, I think this might be the game. I was considering the under, but ultimately, I don't know. Shedeur just has so much extreme outcomes where I don't know that I trust an under at 40. I thought 34 was an interesting under Titans Browns, and they almost covered it in the first half, let alone. So, and then
a couple things to keep in mind. Yeah, I mean the Browns got shredded on the run game last week, and everyone's shocked by it.
Yeah, I mean, Pollard ran a 54-yard run. When did Tony Pollard have that left in him? There's no way.
You know what happened? It was so much talk about Myles Garrett. Could he break the record in this game? It's the offensive line for Tennessee. I think those defensive linemen were hunting for sacks, and they were rushing upfield. And so Tennessee did a nice job of countering that with these draws. And so they really did a nice job of kind of playing to the fact that the Browns really wanted to get a bunch of sacks and put pressure on Cam Ward. And so that was I don't think I think that the Browns should be a little bit more cautious in this game from that regard. I will say Ben Johnson is a brilliant from a kind of counter perspective. He'll run screens, he'll run the bootlegs, he'll do things to kind of play off of the Browns' aggression. So, you could see a couple big screens or bootleg plays if the Browns are just kind of rushing too far upfield. That's the one thing I am nervous about, is that mismatch there. But generally speaking, I just think that to ask this Bears team to win by over 7.5 just feels like a stretch at this point against anybody.
Well, Cleve, we got your hammers all in. I haven't given one yet.
It's your turn, buddy.
I have one in this game. Tennessee at San Fran right now. San Fran minus 12.5 at FanDuel, minus 112 on the juice. Totals 44.5, shaded 112 to the under. Cleve, I'll start off. I worry about how Tennessee's defense holds up against a San Francisco pass game that does so much good after the catch. Tennessee at times can be a very poor tackling team in the second level. Tennessee's also 29th in defensive dropback EPA. Shador slung the ball, and there's not many paths that I think that they can stop this San Fran offense off a bye. On the other side of the ball, Cam Ward might actually have his first soft defense he's played all year. He plays a defense that's 24th in defensive EPA per play, 27th in defensive success rate, second worst pressure rate. They don't generate a pass rush. I kind of like both teams to put up points in bunches. I am not going to bet the Tennessee Titans, but I will grab over 44.5 minus 108 as my single hammer first play on the board. Clive, I'm curious to see how you read this game.
I looked at that, and I am going to pivot. It's not an official play, but I would go towards San Francisco's team total over. I think they get to 30. And so I get nervous needing Cam Ward in this offense to be a partner in an over. That's what would make me. I mean, if you're, I mean, I'm assuming this is not going to be a close game in your eyes. So if that's the case, you're going to assume that San Francisco is going to get to 28 plus anyway on their own. So to me, this is just take San Francisco's team total, because they can win 40 to nothing, like, and you still go under. I mean, realistically, but I doubt this is a, 20 to 17 game. So I just feel like it's San Francisco's team total is a better look. Personally, that's just me, but I did look at the total for the game.
We can't give out team totals here. So
okay. I didn't know that.
I do like it more. Okay. That being said, Cleve, I don't know. You're missing the best ride in football. Needing Cam Ward in the fourth quarter. There is no better thrill in football than needing Cam Ward in the fourth quarter. And you know what? I just can't quit it. I love the fourth quarter sweat. I've actually done well with the Tennessee overs. So
I will say,
yeah,
they have played we've talked about in our chats, just an insanely difficult schedule. I mean, I'm looking at
they've played every defense in the top 10 in EPA per play. And the worst defense they've played up until this point, I think, was the Colts. That was it. And San Fran is significantly worse. They can't generate a pass rush. I'm excited for this game. Listen, if you like getting injury reports, we have a great newsletter. It goes out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Early week Mondays, you get injury reports, takeaways in the NFL from Suuma, early leans from Rob and Clive. Wednesdays, we get the first practice report. And then Fridays, Kirk's Hammer. He writes about things he's observed in the industry and things that have helped him get better as a bettor. You can subscribe now at thehammer.bet and never miss a newsletter. Let's move on to the Detroit Lions at LA Rams. And Cleve, I almost put something in here, but I didn't. Right now, the Rams are minus 5.5, flat 110. Total is 54.5, shade of 120 to the over. Cleve, I'm curious your thoughts on this game.
I got nothing on this. I really want to take the Lions.
So the Lions were literally my cutting room board. They were the fourth play, the bubble play, plus 5.5.
My season long numbers make this much less than 5.5. Now, obviously, you're missing some guys in the secondary, which is just, you don't want to, when you're the Lions, you don't want to be doing that.
The Rams are short too. 2 weeks in a row, Quentin Lake and Roger McCreary go on IR. Darius Williams doesn't play. Cleve, they don't have a great home field advantage either in LA. So are we saying, we're saying with this line that they're 4.5 points better than Detroit on a neutral? And I can't get there. To me, two things. I obviously the Brian Branch injury hurts, and their other safeties, Kirby Joseph and Thomas Harper, are out. It feels like the Rams are going to move the ball through the air. But Detroit's number 1 in the league at generating pressure, and they do it on 44% of the snaps. When Stafford got pressured by Seattle, he had his worst game of the year. On the other side of the ball, I'm suspicious of this Rams secondary. One thing I will say about the Lions, right? Because I'm worried about how their interior O-line holds up against the Rams' very good interior D-line. The Lions have discovered that Jahmyr Gibbs is a weapon. 31 targets the last 4 games. And I expect them to utilize him a lot more in the pass game. And I think there are some advantages to be had there. If the Rams won by 6, I wouldn't be surprised. But, man, this feels like a lot of points.
Yeah, and they do. I mean, the Lions do blitz a lot, and Stafford could completely shred them, especially when they go heavy man to man. Like that's where I'd be nervous about. Like, how are you ever going to get a stop? But yeah, I just think that the Lions are going to be able to match them. I think the Rams defense is overrated. Obviously, I
Yes.
think Jared Verse and the defensive front is really solid, but like their secondary is very beatable. It's not impossible to move the ball on them. So yeah, if they can get the ball out of Goff's hands quick, I definitely think they can score. And like, look, at the end of the day, even if the Rams could be controlling this game, you still have plenty of backdoor opportunities, in an indoor environment for a guy like Goff with those weapons to certainly come back and cover a big number. So, and look, Sean McVay, for as great as he is, he does, tend to, he'll kick field goals in the red zone too, that difference. And if Campbell is as aggressive as he has been, he continues that and goes for touchdowns instead of field goals. I do think they can stay in this game. I haven't bet it yet. I feel like the market's moving against us. So I'm not, there's something I'm missing. And I just want to make sure, if we do get, some flat sixes, maybe I'll take a look. But for now I'm passing.
Yeah, there are some sixes in market. I think there is a chance, depending on if we get, apparently Kirby Joseph is going to practice this week, Cleve. I don't know that he's playing off a 2-month injury. I don't think that's likely, but there's a lot to it. Like, I want to know Darius Williams. That's the truth. He's the one injury I'm watching. If I get the sense that he's not going to play, I'm likely going to be on the Lions. I don't want to give it out at 5.5 right now, but it was my bubble play. So I kind of liked it. It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a fun game, by the way.
It's going to be very.
It's too bad Phil Rivers is playing at the same time, or
yeah,
because that's going to be main TV if he plays.
Well, if this game is your main TV at this time slot, then you're a crazy person. Carolina at New Orleans. New Orleans. I keep doing this, Cleve. I keep calling it New Orleans. Carolina 2.5 minus 114. Totals 40.5, shaded 115 to the under. If this was a 3, it would be one of my plays. I kind of like New Orleans, and I'm kind of curious what your read is here.
Yeah, I bet the Saints at 3. I just couldn't take it at the 2.5. It just wouldn't be. It's just not. You just can't do it. It might get back to 3, so I just didn't feel like it was proper to put it in there. But that was my original. I think I had them instead of the Falcons, and I didn't want to pull the trigger when I think you might be able to get a better price here. This seems like some back and forth between. I think the hammer. I think like me, Rob, and Hitman all took Saints at 3, and I know that like the Raz guys and I think Turnoff and others took them at 2, and I took the Panthers at 2.5. So there's a little bit of a tug and pull here between the two, and they're two totally different bets. Obviously, getting 3 with the Saints is much different than laying 2.5 with the Panthers. So I just think 3 is a valuable number in a game like this. It should be lower scoring. Teams that know each other, they already played. I think that it's just, I can't imagine pulling the trigger on a Carolina team on the road laying points to anybody. I just can't imagine doing that at this point. And the Saints have been really feisty, especially on defense. They've held their own against some good teams too. So like I'm okay, backing a Saints defense that is, top 20 in most metrics. Like they're not getting blown out by many teams here. And so like they'll hold their own, they'll get pressure, they stop the run, and they're really good on early downs. That's the thing about them is they're not getting diced up. Typically with some of these bad teams, you're really poor on these early downs, and it makes third down easy. And against a Panthers team, Bryce Young does not want to be in 3rd and long. He wants to, get to 3rd and 3 so he can make plays. So I think that helps the Saints is that defensively they're pretty good on these early downs. And then, on the other side of the ball, Tyler Shucks played pretty well. He's using his legs a lot more. That was, a couple of big runs last week, including a touchdown run. You still got Olave, you still got some weapons out there. They're playing well. Like I just think that these teams are much closer. Obviously the record doesn't say that, but just from a pure underlying metric standpoint, like I have my pure numbers say 1.5 from a pure season long perspective. But I think that if you can get a 3, I think you might as well just wait. Like I think that there's a chance you can get a 3. May not last long, but keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I'm with you, Cleve. You said it. New Orleans is top 10 in defensive rush EPA. If you can take away the Carolina run and force Bryce to have to throw, this is what happened in the last game. They took away the run and they forced the ball in Bryce's hands, and they were able to hold them, I think, to 7 points in the entire game. The other thing is the Panthers are dead last in pressure rate. Tyler Shuck with a comfortable pocket. I think Chris Olave could have a really good game here. If this was a 3, I'd be on it. I was part of the hammer guys that got a 3 early in the week, but not much more on this game. Listen, before we continue, and I got the next play, I got a double hammer coming up. Please like and subscribe. Do us a favor. You've been great in the comments, and I appreciate it because the lifeblood of this company comes from the algorithm, who YouTube puts us in front of. So I appreciate all the comments, all the likes. Let's move on to the next game. Green Bay at Denver. Right now, Green Bay's -2.5, flat 110. Totals 42.5, -115 to the over. Clive, I'll get us started here because I have a hammer play. This low-key might be one of my favorite games of the week. Let's start off with Green Bay's offense, and I like the over 42.5, -115 as my double hammer. It's in market. There's 43s and 43.5s. FanDuel has the best price in market, so that's part of what's at play here. But let's start with this Green Bay offense. It was nice seeing Jaden Reed back in the mix. They've now got an underneath guy that can win in his routes, so they're not fully relying on the deep ball. Frankly, though, Christian Watson has elevated this offense, and now you get the whole kind of like the whole team, the whole band back together. They're still first in offensive EPA per play, second in success rate. They play a defense that I think has been aided by their strength of schedule. I'm curious if you agree, TA. And I said this comment about a month and a half ago where I think Denver's defense is overrated based on who they've played, soft schedule. Whenever they play a really good offense, they usually put up points against Denver. I don't think they're in the conversation of Houston or Seattle, for example. On the other side of the ball, I think there's a real opportunity to run the ball on the Packers. Broncos are 11th in offensive rush success rate, going against a defense that's 22nd in defensive rush success rate. I know both teams are top 12 in pressure rate, but neither team gets sacked. They are literally the first and third best teams at not taking sacks. Good old line play here. Feel both defenses in general are a bit overrated, and this total is too low, too good to pass up, and surprisingly really nice weather in Denver for Detroit for a December game, and frankly, stalest price in market. But 42.5 -115 over is my double hammer. Cleve, your thoughts?
It's a tough one for me. I understand your thought on this. A couple pushbacks is Green Bay. I think both offenses really rely on big plays down the field, especially Denver. Like they're not a methodical team. They're more of a, Bo Nix wants to push it, and we know that Jordan Love loves to throw it deep. And these defenses rank number 1 and number 2 in lowest explosive pass rate allowed. So, that is a concern that, maybe if they're not hitting their explosive plays, we get a lot of 3 and outs here. But, generally speaking, I think with Jaden Reed back in the mix, maybe you get Matthew Golden. Not even sure if he matters. You can get some underneath stuff. So maybe it's not as big of a deal to take shots deep. But, generally speaking, that is a concern, is just, the explosiveness may not be there on both sides of the ball. But, and I agree with you in general from a Denver perspective in terms of slightly overrated defensively, but at home, they still continue to play well. And, they did shut down Kansas City. They did shut down Dallas when they played at home. So for whatever reason, like that home field defensively, they do a little bit better job. If you're on the road, I agree with you. Like Washington moved the ball on them. There have been some, the Colts earlier this year really put up a big number on them. So it might just, I don't know if there's a home road split there to think about, but I can see it. Like if they hit their explosives, or if they, if there are pass interference penalties, because that's another thing is, they may be fine in, defending the explosives, but yeah, if they're too handsy and the refs are calling it, then, maybe you get some cheap yards there and that helps your over. So I would never look at the under. So I totally get it.
We got some, kind of, Denver wins outright. Green Bay for me, Denver money line. It's going to be a game where people are opinionated. Okay, this one's a little strange. Hunter Mullins says Green Bay's 1-6 at Denver in the last 7. Hunter, so the way the NFL schedule works is these two teams will play each other every 4 years and alternate who's at home. So every 8 years, Green Bay will go into Denver. I don't know. That feels like a stat that goes back to Bart Starr. I don't know that I take too much stock in that historical trend. All right. This is the game, Cleve. I forget all these other games. This is the main event, the one we need to talk about. Indianapolis at Seattle. Seattle 13.5, flat 110. Totals 42.5, 110. I went to our friends at FTN, Cleve, and I said, tell me, query me this. How did Phillip Rivers look like the last time we took him in last time he played in the NFL in COVID year? And they pulled up this graph. If Jacob, you can pull it up for me. The last time we saw Phillip Rivers in 2020 was on the Colts. 7th in EPA per drop back, top 10 in completion percentage, top 10 in passing yards, middle of the pack in success rate. I thought he still had a little bit of gas left in the tank. Now, Cleve, obviously, he's 5 years older. He's off the couch. I like to look at the positive. I'm a person who looks at the positive. And by the way, all that info came from FTN. And listen, if you want to get some good data from FTN, you can go to ftnfantasy.com. Use the Stats Pro or Stats Goat package. You can get 10% off. Just use Hammer 10, and you'll find some really good stuff. Cleve, I like to look optimistically, because there's a split in the Forward Progress group chat. I look at it as Rivers hasn't, has saved his arm for 5 years. Like a pitcher that's not overused in the bullpen and he's fresh in the playoffs. Phillip Rivers is fresh right now. He knows the playbook. Maybe physically, I don't know what he has left. All jokes aside, Cleve, I don't know how to price this game. I don't know what Riley Leonard's worth. I don't know what Brett Ripien's worth. I don't know what Phillip Rivers off the couch is worth. I speak from like a larger perspective. I think Seattle's run game has gotten a little bit better. I think the Colts secondary is very banged up right now. Charvarius Ward with his 3rd concussion of the year. He might need to retire. Sauce Gardner, we don't know if he's back. They just put Chris Lamb.
Oh, no. Gardner's out. Sauce Gardner's out.
I think so too. Yeah. And Chris Lammons just got put on the IR. Feels like Seattle's going to have a ton of success offensively, and they're probably going to shut down everything defensively. But listen, Phillip Rivers is the man with 11 children, 10 from his wife and 1 in Toronto named Jeff Feinberg. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't want to have anything to do. I don't really want to talk betting with this game. I'm so fascinated because we've never seen anything even remotely close to this ever in an NFL game. So, and like I said, we talked about earlier, I love Phillip Rivers. I have so much fun watching him play. Such a competitor. He's hilarious. So I'm just more intrigued. It'll be a big screen. I don't think I'll have a single dollar on this game. Let's maybe see how he performs in that first drive. If he actually looks okay, he's still got it, maybe it's worth taking a look in game with the Colts. But pregame, I have no idea how you could price this. I mean, this number is essentially pricing the Colts the same way that the Vikings were with Brosmer 2 weeks ago. Is that right? Wasn't that there's pretty much the same number, right? Or even might be even a bigger number than the Brosmer
or Titan. I think Titan Seattle was a similar line. That's kind of what they're pricing it at right now.
And I think this Colts defense is way worse than Minnesota's. So I think if it's Riley Leonard or if it's Brett Rippon, then yes, Seattle's clearly worth a look at under 14. But if it's Rivers, how the hell do I know? I don't know how anybody's going to model. What do you even model them out as?
Okay,
Carson Wentz. If you said, is Carson Wentz starting for the Colts? Is that a fair version? I don't know. That's the type of quarterback that you would maybe use as a baseline.
Here's my working theory, Cleve. He knows the playbook. Maybe it's late career Matt Ryan arm, but I don't know if he can take a hit. That's the one thing I can't. It's the hit.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal. And I will say the one thing about the Seattle defense is no defense in the NFL funnels more passes and targets to the running backs and tight ends. Mainly the tight ends. They want you to throw the tight ends. They'll shut everything else down and they'll get pressure with their front. So maybe Tyler Warren is a huge part of this playbook. Like that's the only way they can really find success here. So, and they play a ton of light boxes against the run. Like Seattle wants you to run the ball. They're the fourth most light box defense in the NFL. So maybe Jonathan Taylor can break open a couple of runs. Like that's the only way I can see something happening here. But I think that, the Indy defense is really, between being banged up and just overmatched. It's hard, you're going to have to like slow this game down at some point and extend drives. And I don't know if they can do it, but I'm just kind of rambling. I don't know. I would rather just look at Tyler Warren props than anything else.
I will say this though, Cleve, both for Seattle and the Rams, they both play each other on Thursday Night Football. So 4 days after the Sunday game. I don't want to say look ahead, but at some point there's got to be fourth quarter. We're up by 2 scores. Maybe it's time to bench everybody, make sure they're fresh and ready for the Thursday game. So maybe that Phillip Rivers one time through that back door gets us a cover. I don't know, man. I'm going to be so tempted to bet Indy just to say that I was on Rivers. Maybe just for some pizza money.
I do think, don't you think the first drive will tell us? Like, give us a strong, either he completely is overmatched and he's way behind, or he still looks good. Like, I don't know. I think that will tell us a lot. You can do a lot in the end game just on one drive.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that maybe that's the 100% the way to go. All right, let's move on to Minnesota Dallas Sunday Night Football right now at FanDuel. Dallas is 6.5 minus 105. Total is 47.5. Shaded 115 to the over. Cleve, I'm a little upset at FanDuel. If you like Minnesota, they are 100% the best price in market. Everywhere else is 5.5. Mm-hmm. But as a person who wanted to give out Dallas, I cannot do it because it's 100% the worst price in market. For myself, Cleve, I think Dallas is going to run the ball well. I think the Vikings are not a good run defense, 20th in defensive rush EPA. The real key is how much the Vikings draw up the blitz against Dak, who's been a blitz killer the entire year. On 140 dropbacks, he's taken 0 sacks, completed 71% of his balls for 1,000 yards on 140 dropbacks. He's at 8 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks. Basically, all his metrics are up when blitzed. And I don't know that Flores has another gear. He just has his fastball, and he loves to dial it up. On the other side of the ball, I know JJ McCarthy looked half decent last week, but that's a Commanders defense that kind of let Bo Nix and JJ look good in back-to-back weeks. I think they might be able to run the ball a bit, 4th in rushing success rate, but I don't like them in 3rd and long situations, especially against a defense that's 5th in pressure rate. I love Dallas minus 5.5, but not at 6.5. I'm not giving it out. Curious your thoughts.
I haven't done anything in this game. To me, personally, I was looking at Minnesota or nothing. I don't think Dallas should be laying this kind of number really against many teams. And I haven't, I'll just be honest, I didn't watch any of that Vikings game really last week when Minnesota was on offense. So yeah. I didn't see did McCarthy, was he accurate? Did he look better? Was it just the Washington defense is that bad? Because he literally, I bet him against the Bears a couple of weeks ago when they were 2.5 point favorites, and he was just missing wide open. Guys were open, and he was just missing them. So if he's hitting those same passes, I think that they're alive because he doesn't have to be great. This is still a talented team. And, Dallas's defense we thought was better, but, we saw they were exposed against the Lions. They're still at best a league average defense. So I do think there are paths where Minnesota could certainly move the football on the secondary. They still got Jordan Addison. They still got Justin Jefferson. You can create explosives if you got some one-on-ones against that secondary. So I just think that, and we don't know about CD Lamb yet, right? Coming off the concussion, he's got a couple extra days, which will help. Yeah, but we're still not certain there. That could be a big difference maker. Obviously, if he's out, that's a big blow to Dallas. So that's just me personally. Is I need to see. I need to go rewatch. I haven't had time yet to watch the McCarthy game and see what was he truly fixed, or was it just the Washington defense was that bad, and then also see what CeeDee Lamb ends up being. So
yeah, they had a 55% success rate. Everything worked because it's Washington, but he was still 0.01 CPOE, so he's still not accurate. But which is kind of an improvement from where he's been in the past. I don't know if you know this, Cleve, but Justin Jefferson has ruined some fantasy teams the last month. He's not – this guy stinks the last month. I don't know what's going on. I think I gave him the kiss of death on a Thursday night watch along when I said he's the best receiver in football. Because I don't know. I think he just feels like you know it's coming, right? You know we're getting the March news that Justin Jefferson requested trade because everything. Have you seen his body language? He is not happy right now.
Yeah. It was just funny. Again, it's been a little time, but I was just thinking of this. The Dallas was, again, different defense, but they're only 2.5 against Arizona that Monday night, 5 weeks ago now, just from comparison's sake. I like to look at, apples to apples, how teams are rated in the market. I feel like this is the first time Dallas has been a big favorite since their kind of new defense, right? Like they were small favorites at Las Vegas, but they haven't been in this role in a while to really win by margin. And, do you trust that defense to get enough stops to do that is really a question.
For sure. I think it's gonna be a fun Sunday nighter. Here's a fun Monday nighter. Last play of the last game of the day. And Clive, I don't know if you know this, but I've been holding on to a triple hammer. Miami at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is 3.5-point favorites, -106. Totals 42.5, shaded 115 to the under. I've only done it one time before. I gave out the Miami Dolphins as a triple hammer and won. I'm going to give the Miami Dolphins again as a triple hammer. I cannot get to this line at all. I make this line a shade under 3. For some, the weather will be the story here. Tua in the cold. And it's going to be cold, 23 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 5 degrees Celsius for our Canadian and European viewers. It's still too early to tell, but we could have some precipitation. That being said, Dolphins defense has been playing much, much better the last 2 months. The Steelers shocked me last week. They hit a few deep plays, but they still heavily rely on the run game to move the chain. I think this is a game of what do the Dolphins do well? And that's run the ball. 3rd in rush EPA against a Steelers defense that is 27th in defensive rush EPA. Does not run the ball well. On the opposite side of the field, Steelers, when they're going offensively, it's because their run game is going, but the Dolphins' run defense has been fantastic for about 2 months now. To me, it's just too many points for a game that I think is a true coin flip. I think in its current form, Miami is just as good as current form Pittsburgh. As far as injuries concerned, Devin Achane said he could have played. It was a rib injury, but it was already a blowout. And obviously, we'll watch for linebacker Terrell Dotson. For the Steelers, Darnell Washington was very, very woozy, left with a concussion. Calvin Anderson, their left tackle, is ruled out. It's notable because Broderick Jones is on the IR, and Andrews Pete, the other tackle, also didn't finish the game. And then Derek Harmon and Kyle Duggar did not play. And I'm curious, Cleve. I was thinking about the under here, but I ended up thinking Miami plus 3.5 was the stronger play. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I have been looking at that number all week. I'm still waiting for confirmation on Achane, and maybe, that pushes the number to 3. I don't know. But I need Achane. Although, Ollie Gordon's played well. So it's not like
Jalen Wright looked not bad either.
Yeah, Jalen Wright too. So they do have that strong run game. Yeah, this number is definitely inflated. Now, how much of that is weather? How much of that is Achane? Question mark. If everyone's healthy, and the weather was, not so frigid, would this be 2.5 to 3? Are we the other side of 3 because of that perception that Tua can't, in this Miami team can't tackle in cold weather? I mean, I have seen some things where, when a warm weather team plays in these kind of temperatures that they don't tackle as well. Again, I don't know how scientific that is, but that's something that, is at least potentially keeping this number over 3. But I mean, this is definitely, the number is off from a pure rating perspective. I agree with you.
Yeah. You can't tell me that right now Pittsburgh's 2 points better in market than Miami.
They're almost even teams to me.
Yeah, I 100%. The way Miami's form has been the last, I guess Pittsburgh beating the Ravens maybe is the reason we're getting above a 3 here, because it feels like if they lost to the Ravens, there's no way we see an above 3 number here. So I will gladly take it. Cleve, we'll leave it there. I'm hoping that I don't embarrass myself and lose my triple hammer on my team, but that remains to be seen. And Rob's going to be working the watch along, so that'll be fun. That's it for us, Cleve. Thanks for your insights. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, my friend.
No, thanks. And we should tell the audience we've got a Survivor, a short Survivor update if you want to.
Yep. 8 p.m. on the Hammer Twitter account. 8 o'clock. Flup, Cleve, and I. Flup was able to do the Survivor stuff. He's in the top 10. We did a full discussion. You'll be able to watch that video coming out. Before we get out of here, let's recap all our picks for the people who have missed, maybe joined halfway through. I took Miami plus 3.5 minus 114 as my triple hammer. Cleve took Buffalo, New England over 49.5 minus 110 as his triple hammer. I took Green Bay, Denver over 42.5 minus 115 as my double hammer. Cleve took Atlanta plus 4.5 minus 110 as his double. And I took Tennessee, San Fran over 44.5 minus 108. Cleve took Cleveland plus 7.5 minus 108. Cleve, just 2 homers giving away their favorite team as hammers. We'll leave it there. Listen, thanks to the audience. You guys have been wonderful. Appreciate all the comments. Do us a favor. Smash the like button before you get out of here. If you're not subscribed, please, we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. We appreciate it. That's our goal for the rest of 2025. Thanks to our sponsor, FanDuel. Thanks to Jacob for producing. And thanks to you. Good luck with your bets, everybody, and have a great rest of your evening.